Hey yo everyone, welcome back to another video, and this time we're gonna react to his story, which is the fastest growing YouTube channel in the whole entire history. So his story and his story. So yeah, that's why maybe YouTube likes him and give him some 1 million subscribers for free. Okay, let's go.
Leon was singing with his window down, and I was sketching the tree line on a gas station receipt. He glanced over and said, "You know normal people just look at trees, right?" And I said, "You know normal people don't sing like they're auditioning for a car commercial?" And he laughed and grabbed the receipt out of my hand and held it up to the windshield and compared it to the actual tree line and said, "Okay, that's actually really good, you freak," and handed it back. And then the dog ran into the road.
Oh no! The dog is fucking attacking to his stories instead.
And Leon swerved, and the car hit the median, and the world flipped. Glass exploded across the hood, and the car rolled 3 times, and we stopped upside down in a ditch with the engine ticking, and Leon's hand hanging loose from the wheel. I said his name, and his head rolled toward me, and his eyes were open, and I knew. I screamed until someone dragged me out of the wreck and loaded me into the
There was not even a single person, not even a single alien.
ambulance. At the hospital, I grabbed the nurse's arm and said, "Where's Leon? I need to see Leon, please." And she said, "Your family is here." And my parents walked in, and my mother grabbed my face with both hands and said, "Oh, thank God, Leon." And I said, "I'm Felix." And she pressed her hand over my mouth so hard, her fingers dug into my cheeks.
Hey, yo, cheeksies? Nah, bro, I'm out of here.
"You're Leon now." Leon survived. Felix died in the crash. I tried to pull her hand away, and my father stepped in and held my arms down against the gurney rail. "Don't fight this. Not here." My mother leaned in close, and her voice dropped to something cold and practiced, like she was reading from a script. "If anyone finds out we lied to the hospital, they'll charge us with fraud. You'll be placed in state custody, a group home. You will have nothing." She squeezed my face harder. "When the nurse asks your name, you say Leon."
Why is she even squeezing harder if she's already squeezing you? And that's almost like a sus word.
I looked at my father, and he looked at the floor. The concussion made the room tilt.
Bro, look at the head, bro. Look at the head pretty.
Every time I turned my head, and my twin brother was dead in another room in this same building, and my parents were telling me my life depended on pretending I was him. The nurse came back and asked my name, and my mother's fingers were still on my face, and I said Leon, and my voice sounded like a stranger's coming out of my own throat. Every time a nurse called me Leon, I answered to it, and every time I answered, the flinch got smaller until it was gone. 3 days after the accident, I stood at my own funeral in Leon's suit, watching every person I'd ever known cry over me. My art teacher gave a eulogy about my murals, and I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood because she was 10 feet away talking about me. A kid from history stood up and said, "Felix helped me pass my midterm, and he never asked for anything back." And my throat closed because I didn't even know he remembered. Person after person said things about Felix that made me realize people loved me, and I sat there discovering it at
God damn! The same person is in the church on his own freaking funeral. I wish I was a ghost.
the exact moment I was forbidden from being me. And the worst part was that nobody said a word about Leon. Nobody was mourning the person who actually died. After
Guess who's Leon? You are the Leon. White Fabrics? White Fabrics for my pro?
the funeral, my parents walked me into Leon's bedroom. I walked down the hall and opened the door to my room, and the walls were beige and wet. My murals were gone, the colors bleeding through the first coat like ghosts pushing back through. I dropped to my knees and pressed my palm against the wall where the biggest one had been, and the wet beige came off on my hand. The closet was stripped bare, and 16 years of art were gone. "You can't be Felix anymore," my mother said from the doorway, and her voice carried no...
God damn! Actually, at this point, I would just run away. Go to the hospital, say my real name. Go to a company, say my real name. Go to a live event, say my real name. I would say everywhere my real name, and then, yep.
sadness at all, just a quiet...
Because art? Like what? 7,000 years just to do a single art? Nah, bro, nah.
satisfaction that made my skin crawl. Felix is buried. Leon is alive.
You know how many years would take that, right?
And Leon doesn't draw. She said it like she was reading the terms of a contract, and the way she looked at the beige walls told me everything I needed to know about how much she enjoyed erasing me. I closed the door to my empty room and pressed both palms flat against the wet beige and stood there until the paint dried on my skin, because it was the last time I would ever touch what was underneath. My mother came into Leon's room that night while I was lying in his bed staring at the ceiling. She
subscribe? Okay, I'll subscribe. Oh, I already did.
sat on the edge and stroked my hair and said, "I know this is hard, but think about what we're giving you. Leon had everything. His grades, his friends, his future. We're not punishing you, we're promoting you." She said it like she was doing me a favor, like erasing my entire identity was an upgrade, and I lay there with her hand on my head, and her fingers felt like they were pressing a mask onto my face.
Hey, to the yo, bro. Your mommy is like a sassy baka, bro. So sassy.
Molding me into the shape of the son she actually wanted. Say thank you. I looked at the ceiling. Thank you. That's my boy. She patted my cheek and left, and I rolled
I swear to you, I will quit life after that, bro.
over and pressed my face into Leon's pillow and screamed without making a sound. I lay awake all night in Leon's bed, wearing Leon's clothes, staring at Leon's trophies, and practiced saying, "I'm Leon," until the words stopped feeling like swallowing glass, because tomorrow people would be watching and I couldn't afford a single crack. Samantha came to the house the next day. She hugged me, and I stood rigid with my arms at my sides because she was Leon's girlfriend, and touching her felt like reaching into my brother's coffin. "I know how much Felix meant to you," she said into my shoulder. "I always thought he was the more interesting twin, honestly." She pulled back and looked at my face, and her head tilted like she was looking at
Holy betrayal, holy betrayed, holy betrayed, holy betrayed. Fuck your girlfriend.
a painting hung crooked. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, just processing." She squeezed my hand and left, and I locked the bathroom door and sketched Leon's face on the back of the door with a pen, because I was terrified I'd forget what he looked like if I didn't put him on paper right now. School
Yo, little twins, bro. You literally have the same face. Oh my god.
was a minefield. I walked through the front doors on Monday morning with Leon's backpack on my shoulders, and every step felt like walking onto a stage where I didn't know my lines. Everyone treated me like glass because Leon had just lost his twin. Kids touched my shoulder and said, "I'm so sorry about Felix," and every time someone said my real name, I flinched. A grief counselor asked, "How does it feel knowing Felix is gone?" And I said, "It feels like part of me died," which was technically true in a way she could not possibly comprehend, and she wrote it down like I'd reported a headache, but the grief cover only stretched so far. Leon's friend Derek clapped me on the back at lunch and said, "Dude, are we still on for the camping trip?" And I said, "What camping trip?" And he stared at me. I covered badly, blamed the accident, and he let it go, but his eyes narrowed, and he glanced at the kid next to him. In football practice, the coach put me in at quarterback, and I threw 3 consecutive interceptions, and the coach pulled me and got in my face. "Leon Kessler does not throw like that. What the hell is wrong with you?" I stood on the sideline pulling at Leon's jersey because even the clothes didn't fit right, and the coach watched me from across the field with his arms crossed and his eyes narrowed, and he wrote something in his notebook without looking away from me. Samantha sat on Leon's bed and asked why I'd been so distant. "I miss Felix," I said, and my voice broke on my own name. She reached for my hand, and I pulled it back. "You never pull away from me. You're different since the accident." She left, and I drew her face on the inside of the closet door and pressed my forehead against it because drawing her felt like stealing from a dead man, and she was getting closer to the truth every time she looked at me. The next day, a kid I'd never seen before cornered me outside the gym and pressed me against the brick wall with his forearm across my chest. "You owe me $300, Leon. I don't know what you're talking about. Friday, 300, or I go to your coach." He shoved me and walked away, and I slid down the wall and sat on the concrete with my shirt torn and my heart hammering because apparently being Leon came with a subscription to getting shoved into walls by strangers for debts I didn't know existed. I checked Leon's phone and found 17 unread texts, each angrier than the last. The most recent said, "You know what happens Friday." I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked to class with my collar torn and brick dust on my back, living a dead boy's consequences for debts I didn't owe. And the worst part was, I couldn't tell anyone why, because the truth would end everything. My mother sat me down that evening and told me we were moving in 3 weeks. New city, new school, nobody will know either twin there. I shoved my chair back. If we move, Felix is gone forever. That's the point. You want to erase me permanently? I want to protect this family. From what? From the truth? She slammed her palm on the table. Felix is dead. I buried my son, and I am not losing. You want to erase me permanently? I want to protect this family. From what? From the truth?
Look at the face, okay? Just look at the girl's face.
She slammed her palm on the table.
He's like, bleh.
Felix is dead. I buried my son, and I am not losing another one. You buried the wrong one, and you know it. Her face went white, and she walked out, and I heard the bedroom door lock. I pulled up the news article about the crash on Leon's phone. Mechanical failure, but no details. I grabbed the family iPad and scrolled through Mom's texts until I found the mechanics thread. The last message from the shop. Brake service confirmed for Thursday. The message after it, from my mother. Cancel, please. My hands went cold. I drew Leon's portrait on the closet night by phone light. His grin that was wider than mine. The scar on his jaw from a skateboard bail. The way one eyebrow always sat higher like he was permanently skeptical. Halfway through, I couldn't remember if his ears stuck out or sat flat, and the panic of forgetting a single detail made the pen slip from my fingers. I pressed my forehead against the wall and whispered, "I'm sorry I'm not you," and stuffed my sleeve in my mouth to keep from making noise because nobody in this house would comfort Felix. The coach pulled me into his office and sat me down across from him with my game film on his lap.
Holy, bro. Nah, bro. I think that coach has 2 bones, bro. What's that? That's not even a muscle anymore.
Watch this. He played Leon's highlights from last season. Quick feet and a laser arm and perfect reads on every play. Then he played my film from this season, and it looked like someone had replaced his star quarterback with a kid whose primary athletic achievement was carrying a canvas up 3 flights of stairs without dropping it. Same kid, same body, 2 completely different players. He leaned forward across the desk. Something doesn't add up, and I'm going to find out what it is. I walked out of his office with my hands shaking because the coach was building a case with video evidence, and the debt collector's deadline was in 2 days, and Samantha was asking questions I couldn't answer, and the move was in 2 weeks, and every single thread was pulling at the same time. I sat in the bathroom stall during 4th period and drew Leon's eyes on the back of my hand with a pen because it was the only thing that slowed my heartbeat down. That night, Samantha tried to kiss me, and I turned my head so fast she stumbled. "What is wrong with you?" "I can't, Sam. You haven't touched me since the accident. You don't remember our songs. You draw on everything, and Leon never drew." She grabbed my arm with sharp, searching eyes. "Who are you?" "I'm Leon." "No, you're not. The way you hold a pencil, the way you flinch when I touch you. You don't know anything about Leon's life." She stepped closer. "You're Felix." My jaw locked, and the word Leon wouldn't form. "Yeah, I'm Felix." Her hand went over her mouth. "Where's Leon?" "He's in the cemetery. He's been there the whole time." She sat on the floor with her back against the dresser, and I sat against the wall, and neither of us moved for a long time. Then I told her everything, starting with the hospital and my mother's hand over my mouth and the thread about the group home, through the funeral where I watched people mourn me, to the painted over murals and the closet where I drew in the dark. She listened with her hand over her mouth, and when I got to the funeral, her other hand balled into a fist on the carpet. "We have to tell someone. If I come forward, my parents go to prison and I go to a group home." That's what they told me. "They told you that to keep you quiet." "Maybe, but I can't take the risk." "Then we need proof that makes it impossible for them to spin." She pulled out her phone. "I'm hiring a private investigator, someone who can pull records your parents can't deny." The memorial was my parents' idea. They invited the extended family, Leon's friends, and Samantha for a memorial gathering in Felix's honor, and my parents staged the house with photos of Felix on every surface, and my knees almost buckled because every photo was of me, my face at every age, being mourned by people I could have just tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I'm right here." The funeral was a whole misunderstanding. I stood in the living room in Leon's suit for the 2nd time in a year, surrounded by my own baby pictures, and smiled.
God damn, bro. Like, chill, bro. Just kill someone, bro. If you go to prison, bro, that's the only place that can tell the truth because you're already in prison.
When relatives said, "I'm sorry about your brother," while I dug my fingernails into my palms behind my back to keep the smile from collapsing. My mother handed me a glass of punch and squeezed my arm. "Drink something. You look pale." I took it and drank half of it because I was pale and my throat was dry, and I didn't think about it until 10 minutes later when the room started to soften at the edges. The photos on the mantel blurred. My fingers went numb around the glass. I looked at my mother across the room, and she was watching me with a calm, patient expression, and the glass slipped out of my hand and shattered on the hardwood, and I understood what she'd done because I recognized the fog from the sedatives they'd given me in the hospital after the accident. The ones that made me compliant enough to say Leon when the nurse asked my name. She'd put something in the punch. Samantha walked through the front door carrying a folder. She caught my eye from across the room and gave me one small nod.
It's poison, bro. It's literally poison. It's poison, bro. It's poison.
Blurred. My fingers went numb around the glass. I looked at my mother across the room, and she was watching me with a calm, patient expression. And the glass slipped out of my hand and shattered on the hardwood. And I understood what she'd done because I recognized the fog from the sedatives they'd given me in the hospital after the accident. The ones that made me compliant enough to say Leon when the nurse asked my name. She put something in the punch. Samantha walked through the front door carrying a folder. She caught my eye from across the room and gave me one small nod. And I tried to walk toward her, and my legs buckled, and I grabbed the back of a chair to stay upright. Sam, my voice came out thick and wrong. She was 30 feet away, and the distance felt like a mile. My mother materialized beside me and took my arm. He's having an episode. The grief, it triggers dissociative states. She said it loud enough for the relatives nearby to hear, and the practiced sympathy in her voice made my stomach churn. Let's get you to the car, sweetheart. You need to lie down. No. I tried to pull my arm away, and my muscles were slow and clumsy, and she held on. My father appeared on my other side and took my other arm, and they started walking me toward the back door, and my aunt nodded with concern because they looked like worried parents helping a sick kid. I dug my heels into the carpet. Let go of me. Shh, you're confused. I'm not confused. My words were slurring, and I could feel the drug pulling me under, and I twisted against their grip and knocked a lamp off a side table, and it shattered, and my aunt said, "Oh my God, is he okay?" And my mother said, "He's been having episodes. It's a trauma response," and kept pulling me toward the door. I grabbed the door frame with both hands. My father tried to pry my fingers off, and I held on so hard the wood creaked under my grip. My name is Felix. It came out garbled and thick, and my mother tight.
God damn, bro. Yo. Wait. Yo, guys. Can you hear me? Okay. Now let's go.
Tightened her hold on my arm and said, "He thinks he's his brother. It's part of the dissociation. The doctors warned us about this." My grandmother stood up from the couch. "Let him go, Diane." "Mom, he needs medical." I said let him go. My father yanked my hand off the door frame, and they half carried me through the kitchen toward the garage. My feet dragged on the tile, and I kicked a chair, and it spun across the floor, and I grabbed the kitchen counter and held on and screamed, "Samantha!" as loud as I could, and it barely came out above a whisper because the drug was stealing my voice along with everything else. My mother leaned close to my ear. "Stop fighting. You're going to hurt yourself. You drugged me. You're confused. You put something in the punch. You're having a dissociative episode and we're taking you to the hospital." Her voice was so calm and reasonable that for one horrible second I almost believed.
Guys, Ferrix, who my pro, is about to die. Ferrix! We're gonna miss you all. Ferrix. Yo, I'll never gonna pull Dr. Donut pro. Ferrix pull my pro. Or maybe Ferrix don't pull my pro.
Believed her. Samantha came through the kitchen door at a dead sprint. She slammed into my father from behind, and he let go of my arm and stumbled into the refrigerator, and the magnets scattered across the floor. She grabbed my mother's wrist and twisted it off my arm. "Get your hands off him. He's having an episode. He's not having an episode. His name is Felix, and you've been forcing him to be Leon for a year, and you just drugged him to keep him quiet." My grandmother was in the kitchen doorway with Derek behind her, and my aunt behind him. The living room had emptied into the hallway, and 20 people were watching my parents try to drag their drugged son out through the garage.
God damn, bro!
Raj. I slid down the kitchen counter to the floor. My vision was narrowing, and the tile was cold against my hands, and I was losing the fight against the drug. Samantha dropped to her knees beside me and opened the folder in front of my face. "Felix, stay with me. Look at this." She held up the brake records, the canceled service appointment, the mechanic's warning, and the text my mother received and ignored. She stood up and held the folder above her head and turned to face the hallway full of relatives. Their mechanic told them the brake lines were failing 2 weeks before the accident. Diane scheduled service and then canceled it. She got a text warning and ignored it. She pointed at my mother. "Leon always drove. Felix always sat passenger. On the highway where Leon took the merge fast, a brake failure would kill the passenger." She looked at the room. She planned for Felix to die in that car. Leon was supposed to survive. The wrong twin died, and she spent every day since covering it up. And right now she just drugged her surviving son to stop him from telling you. It was supposed to be Felix. My mother screamed it from beside the garage door, and the room went dead dead silent, and the words hung in the air.
His mother hates his own son?
My father closed his eyes like he'd been waiting for the words to land, and they had. I was on the kitchen floor with my cheek against the tile, and the world was fading, but I heard
Let's go, why subscribe?
every word, and I forced my eyes open and looked up at my mother from the floor where she'd put me, drugged and dragged and barely conscious, and I said the only thing that mattered. My name is Felix. It was slurred and quiet, and it was the hardest sentence I ever spoke, because the drug wanted me silent, and my parents wanted me silent, and my whole life they'd wanted me silent. And I said it anyway. My grandmother knelt beside me on the tile and put her hand on my face. Felix, my name from someone who meant it. Your name is Felix, and I'm not going to let them touch you again. She looked up at her own
Whoa, there are two chances. One booty cheeks and one hurting, bro. Or maybe both.
Son and daughter-in-law, with an expression that could have stripped paint. You are not my children anymore. Sirens grew in the distance because Samantha had called the police from the car before she walked in. My mother looked at the door, and at the windows, and at me on the floor, and the calculation left her face, and the only thing remaining was rage. I gave you everything, Leon's life, his friends, his future, and you threw it away. I pushed myself up on one elbow, fighting the drug, fighting the fog, fighting for every word. I didn't want his life. I wanted mine. Yours wasn't worth anything. Every person in the room flinched. Derek stepped forward and put himself between my mother and me. My grandmother rose to her feet and pointed at the door. Get out of my sight. The police walked both of my parents out through the kitchen. My father stopped next to me and opened his mouth, and I shook my head. Don't. He closed his mouth. He'd had a year to say my name and chose silence every single day. Samantha sat on the kitchen floor beside me and held my hand while the drug wore off. I pulled Leon's suit jacket off with clumsy hands and balled it up and shoved it away from me across the tile because I was never wearing his clothes again. My grandmother brought a blanket and tucked it around my shoulders, and I lay on the tile and let the ceiling stop spinning. It took an hour before I could stand. Samantha and my grandmother helped me to the living room and sat me in a chair, and the memorial was over, but the photos were still on every surface, and I looked at my own baby pictures, and for the first time in a year, I was allowed to say, that's me. Later that night, Samantha found me in Leon's bedroom, sitting on the closet floor next to the portrait I'd drawn of Leon on the wall. She sat beside me and looked at the drawing, and her eyes filled. That's him. That's exactly him. I was scared I'd forget his face. She took my hand, and for the first time since the accident, I didn't flinch because she was holding Felix's hand, not Leon's. We sat in the closet with Leon's face on the wall and the beige paint on the other side of the door, and I was Felix again, and it hurt more than pretending because being myself meant feeling everything I'd been hiding for a year. But the grief was mine now, and the name was mine, and nobody was ever going to take either one from me again.
Whoa!
My mom
6, 7. Okay, so today, never mind, just kidding. Okay, well, everybody, see you on to my next video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see ya on to my next freaking video, bro.